do you find yourself excited to see Spider-Man take on Venom and who knows what else Sony might toss into that film? Well, the good news is, if the sources are correct, that Marvel Studios will be taking the lead as a joint production for Venom 3, just like they do for Spider-Man films. So something that's been discussed in depth by fans, by journalists, by people over on the big trades, it's the fact that whatever happens with Venom next, he's quite clearly dead center in the MCU. Now, is Sony going to outright have free reins with the MCU? Can Sony just make Spider-Man versus Venom in the MCU and go, oh, well, we can now use any MCU character? Yeah, that's probably not going to happen, right? Even getting to use any MCU characters in the Spider-Man films has to be a joint effort, approval, and Marvel Studios has to be at the center of it. That's why they're making these films. Well, when it comes to everything we've learned recently, it's really not surprising that once Kevin Feige confirmed that, yeah, Venom is in the MCU, then most people believe that this is a confirmation of Venom versus Spider-Man happening within the confines of the MCU, but also that Marvel Studios will have their hand on it. And that's exactly what we're hearing, that Marvel Studios will be hand in hand with the entire production and be the production studio that makes Venom 3. Essentially, imagine it as a sort of soft reboot where Marvel Studios will have Tom Hardy and they will be taking over Venom 3 because it's in the MCU, and whatever characters from the MCU they want to toss in there that Peter Parker will ask for help, they have control over them to make sure that Sony's not over there doing something insane if they lend them any characters. Which again, all goes back to those discussions when the two studios had a fallout a couple years ago. They went back to the drawing board, they went back to discussions, and they reached new ideas, new contracts, new plans. Everything was sort of hashed out, and we're now seeing PlayStation securing more and more exclusive things from Marvel. That clearly had to be a part of it. So it would make sense that if Kevin Feige realistically wanted Venom to be a part of the MCU, that he doesn't let Sony do everything. Because if you let them go free, well, you get Sony films, right? So having Feige agree that Marvel Studios will co-produce Venom 3 is honestly the only way it's got to go. Because they would want to make sure that Sony's not messing around and trying to somehow, again, backstep their way into something they're not supposed to, which we seem to be getting somewhat with Morbius in a weird, strange way. But again, that film we have to see it for ourselves to see how that goes. But yeah, I do believe that all these reports are true because that's how it has to go. There is no way that Marvel Studios and Disney agreed to let Venom enter the MCU and then sit back and let them run wild on the entire universe. Because before we know it, Sony's gonna be like, oh yeah, we're doing the whole symbiotes take over all of New York and infect the people. And you're like, wait, what? And now we gotta mention this in everything MCU? We didn't know this was happening. Because they would. So you kind of gotta put a leash on Sony's ideas.